Hello, it's Vanessa Aitken here. The purpose of this recording is to give you an opportunity to revisit the content that was presented in session 3 around how to eliminate stress and anxiety and build confidence. In session 3, we looked at the power of language and questions, and how language and questions can influence whether you feel confident, in control, and capable, or stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious. So let's jump into it. Language, the power of language. Now, language has a huge effect on how we view the world. Most people don't realize this, but the words that they habitually use also affect what they experience in life and how they feel in life. This is because we often use the same limited kinds of words to express ourselves. Words like happy, sad, depressed, angry, furious, annoyed, scared, worried become part of our everyday vocabulary. And this everyday vocabulary can really affect how we see life and how we feel in life. As you already know, all of our feelings come from our thinking. And what is our thinking made up of? Language. So language has a huge impact on how you feel about yourself, how you feel about life, and how you see the world. Now, transformational vocabulary is about how you can take control of your own vocabulary to change the way you feel about life or to change the way you feel about situations. By simply changing your everyday language or your habitual vocabulary, you can change the way you think and therefore feel and see the world. You know, two people might experience the same situation but have very different feelings towards it. So two people might find out that their friend was lying to them. One person says, "I am furious." And the other person says, "Yeah, I'm a little bit miffed." Now, the person who was a little bit miffed is the person who creates a calmer feeling. And this sense of calm can be supported by our use of language. So instead of saying something like, "I'm so stressed out right now," it becomes, "Yeah, I'm a little bit under the pump." How you talk to yourself and how you talk about the world or life or what you experience determines what you feel like. As I've mentioned before, it's estimated we have anything between 4,000 and up to 60,000 thoughts in a day, whether we're aware of those thoughts or not. And what we tell ourselves over and over and over and over again becomes what we feel, whether or not these words are based in reality or not. So if you use dramatic, worried language, guess what? You're going to have a dramatic, worried life. If you use positive language, you're going to have a more positive life. Now, I know that sounds really simple and a bit but it is true. Now, I gave the example of my niece who can be quite dramatic when she chooses to be. And her language is just peppered with dramatic words. You know, if she left her wallet at work, she would be saying, "Oh, I left my wallet at work and it's just such a nightmare. It's ruined my whole day and I can't believe that this has happened. I'm so stressed out because of it." And I would be thinking, really? Is it truly a nightmare that you've left your wallet behind? Has it honestly ruined your whole day? And forgetting your wallet isn't really an unbelievable event. But she uses this language all the time. And because she uses this language all the time, this language colors her world. That's how she feels in life. Now, it's simple, but yes, you can see how this kind of language creates a kind of energy. And often what we tell ourselves over and over and over again is pretty crummy. But there is a great way to prevent this, to stop it. And it's being mindful of the words that you use. So we're going to have a look at some words that we as society tend to use on an everyday basis. And we'll have a look at what we can replace them with. So, I can't becomes I won't. So yeah, I can't come to the party tonight. Yeah, I won't come to the party tonight. I've got too much to do. Can't implies you don't have control. I won't makes it a choice. Now, my favourite one that we're all guilty of. I should, replace I should with I could. Yeah, I should study now. Yeah, I could study now, but I might just have a quick break. Should creates guilt if it's not followed through on. I could, again, offers choice. So often when we say I should do something and then we don't do it, we feel really guilty or we beat up on ourselves. When we say I could, it actually puts us back in control and makes us see that it is a choice. Replace it's a problem with it's an opportunity. So, whoa, this is a major problem becomes, yeah, this is an opportunity for me to learn to prioritize. I give that example of, whoa, two friends having a bust up. Whoa, this is a major problem. So, well, this is an opportunity for me to learn to prioritize. No, it's not. I've said that incorrectly. So, having a whole lot of work. This is a major problem. Then becomes, this is an opportunity for me to learn to prioritize. My apologies, I was thinking of something else. Anyway, we move on. Replace I hope with I know. So I really hope I get enough time to study becomes I know I will make enough time to study. I hope is a bit like, yeah, let's just throw it up in the air and see what happens, see where it lands. I've got no control over it. But I know means, yeah, I'm responsible and I can make it or I can break it. It's totally up to me. Much more empowering. And it's terrible too. It's a learning experience. Oh, I've left my assignment at home. How terrible. Really? Well, maybe you've actually just learnt to check your bag before you leave in the morning. That becomes a learning opportunity. And then if only to next time. So if only I had spoken more clearly in that presentation to next time I'll speak more clearly in a presentation. There's so much more power and certainty in the last statement. So language is incredibly powerful. The words that we habitually use become how we feel. Now, I have also attached on the website a document that has 2 pages of transformational vocabulary that you can replace certain negative words with more powerful and empowering positive words. So the power of language is incredibly important. Also, are the questions that we ask ourselves. Now, we have lots and lots of thoughts every day, as I've mentioned, and a lot of those thoughts are made up by questions. And we ask ourselves questions all day. Am I going to catch my train? Did I remember to bring that book to school? Why is my sister such a nightmare? Have I got to make dinner tonight? How am I going to get all of this work done? Hey, what am I going to wear on the weekend? I've got to make sure I look good. What if I stuff this up? What if I don't actually know what I'm doing? And our brain, being the wonderful organ that it is, answers every single question that we ask it. But mostly what happens is that we use really disempowering questions. And the worst kind of question to ask starts with why. Why can't I have that? Why does she get it so easy? Why is my life so hard? Why can't I understand this? And our brain faithfully answers every single question. But when we use questions that start with why, our brain usually answers in very unhelpful ways. So you ask the question, why can't I understand this? And your brain responds with, because you're not smart enough, you're lazy, you don't know what you're doing, you don't work hard enough, you're just really not that smart, you're an idiot, you just don't prioritize properly, other people you just don't have what it takes, and you're ugly. And that kind of response, is it empowering? No, it's not at all. It just makes you feel horrible. But we ask these why questions all the time. And it's no wonder when we ask these why questions that we feel overwhelmed and we feel a bit like a loser. So what I want you to do is I want you to get rid of those why questions. And there's a far better word to begin each question with, and that is how. How questions are creative. They tap into your subconscious and they bring the right kinds of resourceful answers. It encourages, in fact, it forces your brain to look for really, really helpful, left of center, creative answers. So there's some great ways to reframe why questions. So instead of saying, why can't I have that? Replace it with, how can I have that too? Or why is my life so hard becomes, how can I make life easier? Why does she get it so easy becomes, how can I have what she has? Why does this keep happening to me? Becomes, how can I stop this from happening? And why can't I do this? Becomes, how can I do this? And then finally, why can't I figure this out? Becomes, how can I figure this out? You can see on the left, why is all a bit, woe is me, poor me, a little bit of a victim. As opposed to the how, again, puts you in a position of control, puts you in your driver's seat and lets you know that it is available. How can we make it happen? So you need to ditch the whys, bring in the hows. Think why is wicked, how is helpful. So that's reframing questions. But sometimes we also need to reframe our self-talk. Sometimes we have negative self-talk, and this negative self-talk, as you know, it's all thinking, and what happens from thinking? Well, feelings are created. So when we have negative self-talk, we have negative feelings. So there's some great ways that we can reframe some self-talk. And reframing questions is about being aware of what we tell ourselves repeatedly and making a conscious choice to reframe the unhelpful words or thoughts. Reframing turns negative thoughts into something that is more helpful and helps you, as I said, to feel more in control, confident, and less likely to get freaked out or anxious. So I can't do this. Reframed becomes, if I could do this, what would I do? Again, you can just see how going from I can't do this is a bit like hands up in the air, no, can't do it. Okay, if I could do this, what would I do? Makes the brain start looking for helpful answers. Well, I can't do this maths assignment. Okay, if I could do this, what would I do? Okay, well, I'd look at it from a different angle. I'd ask my teacher for help. I'd talk to a friend. I'll have a look at that article. I saw something in that article that suggested how I might be able to do this. More answers come to you when we reframe it this way. I don't know how becomes, if I knew 5% of what it would look like, what would that 5% be? So I don't know how to do this. Becomes, okay, if I knew 5% of how I might be able to do this, what would that look like? What would that 5% be? Okay, well, I might know that I need to sit down at this time and I need to get out this textbook and I need to get this textbook out and I need to have a look at those paragraphs in chapter 24. It starts to get the mind thinking differently. Or if I did know how, what would I do? So I don't know how to do this. If I did know how, what would I do? And the brain just starts to look for different solutions. I don't understand becomes, how can I look at this differently? So rather than, throwing your hands up in the air and saying, I don't understand Mandarin, you go, well, how can I look at this differently? Okay, well, I learnt something similar to this when I was studying geography and I was able to remember it that way, so I can potentially apply that method of learning to Mandarin. Or how can I look at this differently? I could look at this as a story. I can remember it as a story. There's lots of different ways that the brain will come up with solutions. I stuffed it up becomes, okay, what will I do different next time? So, okay, I totally stuffed up that presentation. I stuffed it up. Okay, what will I do different next time? Okay, well, next time I will make sure that I dedicate more time to it. I will practice my presentation more out loud. I will highlight certain words in my text so that if I have to look down, I've got the keywords there looking at me to prompt me. Again, it just encourages the brain to look for different ways. Now, you can see in the brackets, there is no failure, only feedback. Now, this is a coaching principle that I love because so often when we feel like a failure or we feel overwhelmed, we are looking at things black or white. We've either done well or we haven't. And if we haven't done well, then we become a failure. But this principle of there is no failure, only feedback, tells us that you haven't failed. You've actually just been given feedback. So feedback that next time you need to look at it from a different angle. Feedback that next time, speak to your teacher earlier. Feedback that next time you need to highlight the key words. Feedback that next time I need to dedicate an extra 10 minutes a night. Feedback next time that I need to focus on my articulation. Feedback that next time, whatever. Looking at it as feedback as opposed to failure means that it opens the door for growth and opportunity rather than having that statement of I stuffed it up. It's incredibly powerful. Having gone from personally being someone who stuffed it up and I was either black or white, good or bad, realizing that there's no failure, there's only feedback. Feedback to do it a different way is enormously transformative and just puts your mind in a better position. And then finally, I never get it right becomes, it's been tricky up until now, but what can I do, or what do I need to learn so that next time I can do it better? And the brain comes, okay, so you need to do a little bit more on your characters, or you need to learn a little bit more about that novel, whatever it might be. So reframing self-talk is incredibly important to your sense of being in control and feeling calm. Because when we've got more options and when we've got different paths that we can see, that we can take, we feel so much more confident. So be mindful of your self-talk. Start reframing your self-talk. Notice your language and what kind of world is your language creating for you. And start noticing other people's language as well. You don't need to tell them about it, just notice it for yourself. And notice that perhaps people who maintain they don't have a great life don't have great language. And people who do really value and enjoy what they have use positive language. So have a play around with it. Look at it and see. And you'll start seeing how it is actually really quite powerful. So that's it for language and questions. I look forward to catching you in the next audio.